Give it up for Keri Hilson, entertainer that we all love. James Bland, creator of Giants. Necole Kane, XO Necole. And Dr. Ayanna Abrams. And Vaughn Gay. And I just want to thank Necole for being so gracious. We know you don't live in Atlanta, and Keri, I know you spend a lot of time in other cities. For both of you ladies taking time out to recognize the importance of this discussion. We appreciate you, and we're so excited because we're being streamed on platforms for XO Necole. So give it up for XO Necole. Now I just want to start. Again, I'm Shanti Das. I will be moderating this panel. Some of you may know my story or may not. I'm an Atlanta native, worked at LaFace Records, helped shape the careers of artists like Outkast and Toni Braxton and Usher, watched Keri as a young songwriter. Her former manager, Ethiopia, used to be my intern, so I'm really telling my age right now. But I had this wonderful career, right? Everything that you dream about, moved to New York City, had the job of executive vice president, the corner office, the nice whip, and I was making almost $500,000 a year. And in '09, my mom got Alzheimer's, I had some health issues, and every day I would wake up and I couldn't understand what was going on. I was not happy anymore. And so I was starting to experience depression, but didn't really know what to call it. And then also my dad committed suicide when I was 7 months old. And I kind of buried that for a long time and just really put all my energy and time into work, but never properly dealt with my father's death. And we didn't go to counseling as a family, because y'all know how it is in the African-American community. We don't believe in therapists. We don't need that. We can just pray it away. And I am a big believer in Jesus, and I wake up thanking God every morning, but as it relates to mental health, it's just as important as your physical health. So 2 years ago, in 2015, I went on a downward spiral. As successful as I was, it was the first time that I really contemplated suicide. I was about to be out of here. And it was scary, and it was dark, and by no way am I happy about that situation, but I knew I needed to do something different, and I needed to help myself and to help other people. And so that's how Silence to Shame was born. We have our committee on the front row. Shout out to all of my Silence to Shame committee members. No one is getting paid. We really don't even have funding yet. But we all came together and shared our own personal experiences of dealing with mental wellness, and so that's why we're here tonight. And just so honored that James created this series, Giants, and one of the characters deals with her own, struggle as it relates to mental health and mental awareness. So we're going to have a good conversation tonight. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable and open as we start to continue to break down the stigmas around mental health. All right, so I would like each moderator to introduce yourselves and give a 1-minute intro on your background. Yep, just general. Yep, and you can talk about why you're here or why it's important for you to be here.
I'm Keri Hilson. You guys know the background, but I'm here to share my personal experiences with mental health and depression. I'm here to answer the questions as far as where has Keri been, and it happens to tie into what we're talking about very deeply. So I'm here to be vulnerable. I don't have all the stats. I'm just here to share my story and allow people to understand, it's something that not anyone, not any person, no matter the stature or status, is exempt from, so.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is James Bland. I am the creator and showrunner of Giants, the digital series. And, Giants is a coming-of-age drama that deals with 3 millennials of color who are all dealing with an internal giant. And one of our lead characters, Journey, is manic depressive in the show. And so we follow this journey of this character. Some days she can't get out of bed, she can't keep a job, and then we also watch how her family, responds to this illness. And so, I'm here to talk about how mental illness, is being displayed in the show, and the importance of having this conversation in media.
Thank you. Necole?
Hi, my name is Necole Kane. A lot of people know me as Necole Bitchy. I ran the celebrity gossip site NecoleBitchy.com for almost 8 years. Now I am the founder and editor-in-chief of a women's lifestyle and empowerment site called Exo Necole. And this is a full circle moment for me, because I think when I was going through a rough period last year, I came across James' Giant series because a friend of mine was in an episode, and I related with the character, of course, who was going through the depression. And I ended up binge watching the whole season. And a year later, I was in Will Packer's office talking to James about how we could work together. And I was like, it's crazy how things come around full circle.
Yeah.
Now I'm here sitting next to him on this panel.
That's awesome.
But so yeah, I'm here to share my story as well.
I am Dr. Ayanna Abrams. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. I have a solo practice in Decatur called Ascension Behavioral Health, where I primarily work with individuals and couples, particularly black women and black couples, and we focus on areas of stress, marital distress, anxiety, depression, the vicious cycle of anxiety and depression that we also notice, and as well as that can turn and kind of transform into suicidal thoughts and ideation. So I wanted to help share some information tonight.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vaughn Gay, I'm a licensed professional counselor, master addictions counselor, and also serve as the assistant director of counseling services at Morehouse School of Medicine. Been working in this field almost for about 15 years now. Actually got my start working in group homes around the metro Atlanta area, and as I was going through undergrad, and I very quickly started to see a lot of the different emotional and cognitive disparities that young black men in the city of Atlanta were experiencing. And so it was at that moment that I really realized it was something that I wanted to kind of build a career in and really kind of dedicate myself towards. So also work in private practice as well, so just wanted to continue to do some of the things we do with mental health education and awareness, and I appreciate you all coming out tonight.
Thank you so much. Give it up for your panelists. So my first question is for James. Why was it important for you to address mental health with millennials as a part of the storyline in the series Giants?
One thing about millennials, in our generation is we're a bit more open, than our parents. We're coming out, we're talking about our struggles with depression, and I think we're really starting to break the stigma, and media, for me, is that first step. I often say that filmmaking is my ministry. It's the way that I connect with people. It's the way that I've chosen to, impact the lives of people around me. And so when I created Giants, I didn't want to make a show that was for entertainment purposes alone. Entertainment is cool. It's good. We need it. Sometimes we need to laugh. Sometimes we need to get away. But also I wanted to create a show that had impact. I wanted to be significant and not just successful. And so the storyline in Giants with this character who is manic depressive, honestly, is the reason why we're here today. It's the, I would say, the sole reason, not the sole reason, but the largest, it was the moment that I decided we must do a season 2. I received so many messages from folks who had said this show was impacting their lives and perhaps had saved their lives. In particular, when they saw, Journey, for you guys who saw season 1, when she broke through that bag and decided to live, other folks told me that that scene encouraged them to continue to live. And so at that moment, I said, okay, we have to continue the show. We have to continue the work because it's having real change.
That's awesome. Can you dig a little bit deeper into Journey's character and some of the things that she went through and how difficult it was for her, because we know that she shared this openly, that she struggles in real life as well. Yeah,
so I'll tell you guys, Journey is played by Vanessa Baden-Kelly. She's an amazing actress, and a lot of Journey was actually pulled from Vanessa's real life. Vanessa and I, we went to college together. I went to Florida A&M, she went to Florida State. So though we were at different institutions, we were right across the tracks, and so we both participated in a bunch of different organizations together. However, when she moved to Los Angeles, even though she had been an actress, since she was 4 years old, she was on the show Kenan and Kel, she moved to LA and she wasn't really booking. She broke up with a guy that she was dating for quite some time, and she would show up to my house and she would spend days, on my couch. And I didn't have a ton of experience, dealing with depression, in my real life. However, one of my frat brothers committed suicide in college, And I have, some other family members who, the family, we would say, they're crazy, or it was very clear that they were bipolar.
Or like Uncle Pete in the
Yeah.
back and so forth.
So we never really discussed it. And so I watched Vanessa go through these things. And so when I created Giants, I really wanted to give her story a voice. And I wanted to create a character that I had not seen, in television and film. And so in the first episode, we watched Journey not be able to get out of bed. And as a result of her not being able to just get up and go to work, she loses her job. And as a result of losing her job, she can't pay rent. And then as a result of her not being able to pay rent, we get kicked out of our apartment, and she has to move in with her sister, who thinks her mental illness is an excuse, and that she's being lazy, and that she needs to will herself, to be able to do the things that normal people do or that Christians do. And she's not able to find that within herself. And so we explore that season 1, and in season 2, as you'll see, we start to go deeper into what it looks like to struggle with depression as a millennial.
Thank you. And I want you guys feel free to jump in if there's anything that comes to mind that you think is important to add in terms of what James has said. Feel free to jump in. Our next question is for Keri. Keri, can you share with us your journey to overall wellness, and where has Keri been?
Oh, it's so hard to sum up the last 7 years of my life. At the height of my career, which was when Pretty Girl Rock released, 2011, 10, Al Jamal, where's he at? Somewhere around there. When Pretty Girl Rock was at the top of the charts, I was bearing, I hope I can do this quickly, but
Take your time.
I was bearing the weight of some personal and professional mistakes, and they just weighed so heavy on my spirit, and I was just not myself. Although I was at the mountaintop of my life, really, the trajectory of my dream, I was at the pinnacle, I was severely unhappy, and then add to that, this is when I decide to jump out of an 11-year, leave an 11-year relationship. Bad decision, bad timing. But it all just kind of spiraled for me and became something I had never been through. I had never recognized myself as a person who can't pick themselves back up. I mean, I was literally on stage crying. I was on tour. I remember being on tour. And
Did the people around you kind of know what was going on or have an idea?
I think they knew when the breakup happened. Yes, they knew. Yes, that was clear. I was crying before stage. I was crying on stage. I was crying after stage. I was barely getting my makeup on through the tears and barely keeping it on through the tears. And I remember just, it was just dark. And so at the time, I was on a European tour. And it just got to be too much. And I told...
How so, if you don't mind?
I just couldn't handle it. I was sleeping. I was not enjoying the trips or the shows or the love from the fans. I could not receive anything.
Take your time, sis. I understand. I've been there.
Yeah. And so I told management that I need a year off. I need a hiatus. I was in that relationship from 17 to 28. Thank you. I gotta stay pretty.
Yes. That's right. That's right. We got you, girl. We got you.
So, yeah, I just asked for a year off. And, my management and just no one understood. Production, Timbaland, this is kind of the moment Timbaland and I's relationship really changed. He didn't understand it. Although when I first met him, I don't want to tell his story, but he was severely depressed after the death of Aaliyah, obviously.
Yeah.
And so he credited me as being part of the reason that he got over his.
Oh,
but,
wow.
I didn't feel the same understanding from him during this time. And so during that time, I only accepted trips that I felt would be most fulfilling. Shows that I felt would be most fulfilling. I didn't really do anything in the States. I just, went to Africa, cranked that up, and China and Japan and Thailand and wherever my heart really, truly desired to be. And I learned the importance of the word nah.
Absolutely.
And I just went on an eat, pray, love. Life wasn't about music anymore. Life wasn't about the charts or watching them. Life wasn't about releasing music, shooting videos, writing songs, being in the studio. Life was just about survival for me and just trying to find one smile a day if I could.
Did you seek counseling or therapy at some point?
I did. It took me a while to get there, but it was not until the anxiety reached a point. And that, like I said, that was new to me, and I just thought, I grew up in a Christian household. I was like, I'm gonna shake it off.
Right.
I'm just gonna pray it away. Like, what is, this is spiritual, and it is. It can be. But yeah, I have a therapist in LA. I have a therapist in Atlanta. You know what I mean?
Yes, to therapists.
I made sure.
Y'all can clap for that. That's a good thing.
I'm the only one in my family, and friends probably. Not friends. My friends are pretty. Thank you. Yeah, it's probably gonna be tearful. But I don't know many of my peers that actually go to counseling, and I can attest to the fact that it is a process because it does uproot things that I would have anxiety even going. You know what I mean? It uproots for the sake of healing. So it's a process. It's not that you go and sit there one time and feel good. Many days
right.
I wouldn't feel good going or leaving. But
And some people have to find 2, 3, 4 different therapists till they find the right one.
that's true. That's true. One that I have, the one in LA, I can't see him all the time because he's just real, he's a little brutally honest. And I'm not ready for that all the time. I was a little fragile. I'm good now. So I took a hiatus from him and I was like, I'm just going to the one in Atlanta. She's very gentle with me. But we have stuff, we have stuff. And it wasn't until I started to do my work during this process, and I'm trying to wrap it up, it wasn't until I started to do my work and realized this is really childhood. This is my inner child really wounded. You know what I mean? This is really the traumas.
Say that again. Because
Yeah.
that was it for me with
Yeah,
my
'cause-
father committing suicide.
Yeah.
And people are like, but you're grown, you're successful. How can you be reliving any of that?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, absolutely.
My mother actually is in child care, and she has her master's degree in early childhood psychology. And so she has told us something about how throughout the years she's allowed us to understand that even infants have cellular memory. They are being affected even inside the womb. They're
Wow.
being affected by traumas, by sound, by they sense danger. And so these are things that as our brain is literally and physically developing, we are internalizing fear and stress and anxiety and danger. The world, when I get out here, it's danger, so. But yeah, literally 7 years of my life have been a battle with depression. And I can't say that I'm all the way clear, but I'm in the clear.
Yes.
Amen. I'm grateful that I've found ways to cope, and I've, made several great adjustments. And I'm sure we'll get into that. I'll save that. But
Thank you so
that's my
much.
story.
Thank you. And thank you for, we were together in January in Bermuda, and just thank you for allowing our forum and platform to be the one that you shared this most personal story. I love you, and I'm always here with you. I'm fighting through it as well. So I hope that we continue to grow and heal together.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Can I say something really
Yes,
quickly?
please. Can you hold the mic up?
I'm not good at this. Appreciate and honor you being able to share your story without trying to say 17 things. I was linking onto things. But I saw the audience react a lot when you were speaking about being at the pinnacle of what things look like outside for you versus what things were feeling like inside for you. And specifically because I'm talking to an audience of color, that's something that shows up so much in our community, right? And there's a phenomenon, the strong black woman phenomenon shows up where there's this pressure, right, to be everything and all for our families, for our friends, at the job, for our partners, even when we are literally dying inside, and that's what that looks and feels like for you. But again, there's still this momentum and this motivation to just be, right? That's the shame in it, right? I can't let people know what is going on because I might be invalidated. Somebody's not going to get it, right? Somebody's not going to get it. They're not going to understand. They're going to shame me even more, and this is already hard enough for me to make it, to do my job, to do my work, to be with my people. And those are the main symptoms of depression, right? Not being able to experience the joys in your life, things that used to once bring you fulfillment, you can't connect to them anymore, right? You begin to socially isolate. The things that you used to love and enjoy, you either can't sleep or you're sleeping too much, all right? You can't eat or you're eating too much. Things are so dysregulated for you, but I can't let anybody know that because I need to be everything to everybody because something's gonna fall apart if I am not here. Right, and when you take on that pressure, there's no way in which you can fully like live your life because you're so focused on everyone else, and it creates this codependency, right? Because once you are everything to everyone, they expect you to be everything all the time for them.
Ooh, please say that
Right?
again.
So
It is exhausting.
and again, when I heard you say that and I saw the audience, I saw a lot of nodding, right? I might have heard some snaps somewhere, right? So I recognize that people experience this, right? Either to a minimal degree or to a great degree, but we're also in an environment and socially where that becomes expected. And literally we are dying because of this phenomenon. So I want y'all to really take this seriously. When you notice those symptoms, when you see things like that come up for you, to reach out to your support group, right? To find a support group, if your tribe ain't who you need them to be, right? To find a therapist, because that doesn't go away. That doesn't change. It's just a new problem that gets created and recreated over and over and over again. So,
Thank you.
Really quickly, there's a really good article that's referencing to what she stated. I want to say it's in Ebony magazine from 2014, but it's entitled "The Superwoman Effect." And pretty much it essentially just talks about how, within black culture, women have almost kind of associated, being the rock, or almost kind of going to an extent emotionally, and taking things on, taking pressures on, just to kind of, really kind of create an identity around that. So that article is something I think is still available online. Definitely check it out. It's called "The Superwoman Effect." It speaks really directly to what Dr. Abrams was just speaking about.
Thank you. Okay, Necole, I would like to ask you a question next. I've read this quote on one of your blog posts. It says, "I wasn't doing well. I had launched a new website, which was draining me financially, and it was causing me to fall into deep stages of depression. I felt so low on energy that I could barely yank myself out of bed in the mornings," which we've all been there, unfortunately. "How did you know you were going through a deep depression? Did you seek therapy or see a licensed healthcare professional? And did you just begin to exercise as a self-coping mechanism before you saw anyone? Because I know you did kind of thrust everything into exercising, and it helped a lot."
Oh, yeah, I did. Well, Lord, I get crying all the time.
Well, I got tissue. Hold on.
But I'm telling you, I done cried through 10 years of my career.
I'm a crier
But-
too, so it's okay.
I mean, I've been dealing with depression just for a long time. But I'm the strong friend.
Girl, but you are here.
But my friend, I tell you, I'm the strong friend and I'm the successful friend. And when you're the strong and you're the successful friend, it's like you have to be there for everyone.
That's
And
right.
so when you're going through your thing, what I do, I go into a shell and no one can reach me. But it's not healthy because I isolate everyone until I'm better and I'm that strong friend again. But it's almost like you're pouring into all these cups, but no one's filling up yours.
And that was me, if I can interject quickly. These ladies on the front row and gentlemen will tell you, I was you too, but you gotta let people in. You gotta let us be strong for you sometimes. Because I'm sure that you give so much to so many.
I do. And it affects my dating life, my social life a lot because I always feel like people fall for the idea of you. Those happy pictures they see on social media.
The highlight reels on IG.
But like, are you gonna stand with me when I'm hurting? Because I go deep sometimes.
That's right.
But with my story, I lost my parents. I lost both my parents 2 years apart in 2002 and 2004. They were 41 and 42. I have no living grandparents. So already I kind of go through life feeling lonely and isolated. I had started NecoleBitchy.com after my parents passed away, and that kind of grew really quick. So that became like a baby to me. And that was the only thing I had that I saw grow from this like infant stage to mega success. But I wasn't happy. And, you know, it brought a lot of toxic energy into my life because, of course, it's celebrity gossip. You talk about break babies and breakups and people killing each other and drama. And so that was affecting my overall spirit and making it even worse. So I was successful and I was making a lot of money. And it was something that I felt, you know, every day people come on your website, I love you, Necole. They love the tea.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't love me. Like, they love the tea I'm spilling, but it gave me a sense of validation. So when I got to a place where I realized it was affecting my spirit like way too much for me to even go on and let it go, and had to decide whether I was going to let it go. It was a very difficult decision because it was the thing that I had that I felt was validating my existence and loving me back when I didn't feel like I had love in my life. So you can imagine when I finally decided to shut the site down in 2015, which was almost 3 years ago, how that felt for me, because a lot of times our worth is tied to a title, what we do, you know, who we know, and a relationship. Once you have that breakup or once you get rid of that job or you get fired, it's like, who am I? You don't know who you are anymore. And I think that's where I was for 2 years after I left this site that defined me. It was like, who am I? And I moved to Arizona, Scottsdale, Arizona, away from the entertainment industry. You know, I couldn't be in New York or LA. I had to go out away from all the entertainment, all the people I knew. I didn't know anyone in Scottsdale, but I was like, I'm about to go through this self-discovery phase and really look at myself in the mirror and get to know me and who I am all over again. And that was the best decision I could have made in my life because Arizona has these very healing energy out there, and it's a place where you're gonna sit with yourself a lot, quietly. It's not a lot going on. So I got to heal out there. You know, I did try therapy. Like you said, you have to stick with a therapist. It's like a relationship, building a relationship, like being with a boyfriend.
It's not like adding
yeah,
water.
You can't just go
No.
one and done, like one night stand. Like you really gotta like keep
You gotta
going
date.
back.
You gotta date your therapist. Yeah,
They have to-
commitment.
Commitment.
That's right.
right.
Try to come once and don't come back. Y'all gotta keep coming
Yeah,
back.
they have to peel back all these layers, and they
Yes.
gotta like go through like what? I'm 37 now, 37 years
They
of
say
life.
it's levels to it.
So yeah, I went out there for 2.5 years and really found myself and found what made me happy and
Good
what
for
made
you.
me at peace outside of the likes on Instagram and outside of job titles and things. And that's the only reason why I was able to go back to New York. I live in New York now. I'm back in the entertainment industry kind of, but I would have never been able to get back to New York and back in the industry if I didn't take that time off for myself.
Can y'all please give it up for these two brave sisters? There's so many of us that are struggling and that are afraid to share, but that is why we continue to fight the good fight. Silence the Shame is not even a full year old, but we've been doing panel discussions around the country. We flew to Bermuda in January and did a mental health awareness panel, and we're just gonna continue until y'all be okay with being not okay, okay? All right. All right, my next question is for Dr. Ayanna. I recently worked with a company called Razar, where they polled 1,100 millennials across the country about the state of millennial health. A meaningful portion of millennials reported that their two biggest barriers to seeking help for mental health are lack of time and the high cost, of course. A majority reported that they do not believe employers provide enough access to resources when they need the help. How hard is it to access mental health care, and are there any other issues that make it hard for this particular generation, the millennial generation, to seek help or get treatment? And I know you've watched season 1 of Giants, and we didn't see Journey's character seek help yet.
I'm glad you brought that up within my obsession for the show Giants. Again, thank you again, James. We noticed that Journey is really struggling, knows exactly what she's experiencing, can talk about it in these ways, can talk about her symptoms, but there's no mention of her going to seek help for it. And more than likely that's because of, and I want to even change the, when people say I don't have time, I always challenge people and say that's a perceived lack of time, right? You create your time, you create your days, right? If you are willing to make time for this, and if you are willing to really challenge yourself to do that kind of work, then you will make time for it the same way you make time for all the other things in your life. Doesn't mean that it's easy, so I don't want to undermine that in any way, but the help that you want and the help that you are willing to get is in your control. But there is a disparity, right, in terms of being able to reach mental health services. So I don't think that jobs and companies are doing enough, flat out. There are a number of companies who have employee assistance programs. I also don't think that people utilize those services enough. Many of your jobs and companies can offer you 3 to 6 free sessions through your job. You have to look for the services. They say they make it as readily available, and they do it in the orientation when you start work 5 years ago, and they don't mention it again, but for a lot of companies it is there, but it is searchable, right? Google is available. If you type in therapist and your zip code, you will come across a number of therapists. Write down a website called psychologytoday.com, right? You can look up your insurance, you can look up your zip code, you can look up the kind of therapy you want, and that kind of helps you as a starting point. Therapy for Black girls, there's another resource. There's a directory out there. I see some people who are on therapy for Black girls, right? Those are resources that are there, but I don't want to ignore the fact that one of the main barriers is shame, right? This is hard work to do. Again, it's not about a one-time drop-in, and oftentimes people don't make it to my office until they're in crisis, right? Until things have hit the fan, right? And they have to seek some help until they cannot get out of bed and they're calling and saying, hey, I need a phone consult because I really don't think I can make it to your office. That's typically when people come, and we want people to do more preventative work. When you start noticing something, if something feels off for more than 2 weeks, you might be experiencing, right, some level of mental health crisis. That's when we want you to go. On average, my couples who come in, marital therapy, premarital, relationship counseling, on average, research shows that couples wait 5 to 7 years after a crisis to seek therapy. 5 to 7, and you want me to do what in 6 sessions? 5 to 7 years, right? That's how long people wait to seek treatment, right? I'll have clients who come in and say, I think I might have been depressed for maybe like 20 years. I never get sleep. 4 hours is the norm. I haven't been eating right for years, but I just figured I'd come now because I lost my job, right? Now because this relationship ended. Now because, again, I'm experiencing such a high severity of symptoms. Again, versus coming before when you recognize something is shifting, something is changing, I don't feel good anymore. And I use the analogy, you wouldn't wait weeks with a broken leg, right? You wouldn't fix a broken leg yourself. You wouldn't go to church for a broken leg.
Ooh, say that
right?
again.
You would go to a doctor, right? So the same ways, right? And Ashanti had said, like, prioritizing your mental health the same way we do our physical health. You wouldn't have a cold for more than 2 weeks before you're freaked out and you're complaining about your cough and doing all this stuff, right? You would go and seek treatment the same way in which you want to value and treat your mental health, right? Because when that is off, everything gets thrown off, right? Your relationships get thrown off. Your job stuff gets thrown off. You can't concentrate. You can't advance in any way. So that's the one barrier. There is a very real financial barrier, right, to treatment, but often there is an assumption that treatment is more expensive than it is. There are clinicians who offer sliding scales. Again, there are EAPs through your job. There are low-cost clinics and pro bono services available if you search for them, if you look for them. If you don't feel well enough to look for them, ask for a friend to look for them. Right? This is not something you also have to do alone. And if people were to recognize mental health issues and mental illness as a community issue versus an individual issue, I imagine we would be doing much more about it, right? Because you are experiencing something and I'm not doesn't mean that this doesn't affect me, right? Because again, this happens in our families. Uncle Pete is upstairs, right? It becomes transgenerational, right? Your trauma gets passed down throughout your family, right? So we have to do something about these things immediately. So again, the barriers are there, but I believe that there are barriers that we create because we're scared to do the work, right? And if you're not willing to face your demons, this work is going to be hard regardless. Even if you know all your stuff, right? Therapists will help you break it down in a way And it's not just about breaking it down just for you to feel bad in there. But again, once you're able to organize your life in a different way, you get to go out and you get to shine, right? Once you're able to remove the shame, right, from what you are experiencing because you're in a space that validates you, no one else can shame you. There's no power there anymore, right? So that's the point of therapy, is to be able to have your story in your own words, and then you get to change your story, right? But you gotta know what your story is. You gotta get into your childhood. You gotta get into all your stuff, all of it, right? Then you can change things from there. But if you're not willing to do that, you also can't expect change, right? That's not how it works.
Thank you. Very, very good information. I could definitely attest to that. I was 33 when I first went to therapy, when I was living in New York City. That's the first time I ever forgave my dad for committing suicide. And I was 7 months old when that happened. And that's how long it took me to go. And I was well into my career. I was shoestring. I was Shanti Das from LaFace and Columbia and all those slashes. And I thought, you know, I didn't need any other help.
How old were you when you found out what had happened with your father?
So when I really started understanding, I remember being in kindergarten, and now y'all about to make me cry. So you know how you get in a circle, and you say what you're going to do for the weekend. And I would always say, I'm going to go see my dad. I don't know, I felt like I was a daddy's girl in my heart, because when I was born, my mom said every day for 7 months, my dad would come home from work and I would lay on his chest. So we formed a bond for 7 months. And so I remember being in kindergarten, and I kept saying that I was going to go see my dad every weekend, and finally my teacher was like, we got to deal with this. So she called my mom up, and they sat me down and kind of explained to me that my dad was dead. And I think I was probably in the 3rd or 4th grade once I really understood the concept of suicide, which is a whole different conversation. That's another panel discussion that we could have. And so my entire life, you know, for a long time, I hated to even bring my dad's name up. I wouldn't let my mom talk about him. And then I was afraid, as successful as I was afraid that I was predisposed to something. And we know that depression can run in families, and it can, you know, obviously trickle down for other family members. And so I was afraid that when the going got tough, that I would shoot myself or want to harm myself. And so during my transition, you know, kind of similar to your transition, Necole, when you wanted to do something different, you know, walking away from 500 G's a year, who does that? Like, that's crazy. But my mom had Alzheimer's, and I was not happy going into Universal Records. It had nothing to do with the people there. But the industry, for some reason, had just killed my spirit. I wasn't happy, and I was dealing with a lot of the childhood issues of family. With my mom having Alzheimer's, it reminded me of the fact that I didn't have my dad. And so here I am now, 47 years old. I'm actually finding a new therapist now because it's so difficult to fight this struggle of silence and the shame. Like, y'all don't understand, as much as I'm trying to help heal you guys, it's heavy for me to do this on a regular basis and still be sane. My birthday was 2 days ago, and on Saturday, I went into a dark place again, because I'm like, God, what am I doing? You know, I just started this foundation. You know, I could easily call up my friends and go get this high-powered job again, but I want to do something for my community and help y'all, but it is real, and it's a struggle. But I'm here, and I deal with my own self-care, but you know, I'm about to get back on my happy pills because I think I need a little help, and I'm okay with that. But it's real. But you just can't be afraid of healthcare not being there. You got to keep your village around you. You got to let people love on you. You have to be open with sharing. And so, sorry, I need to pull myself together now. So our last question, and then we're going to go into some questions from online in the audience. Vaughn, can you address the stigma around mental health and also talk about the millennials' quest for perfectionism? Because that is a big problem. And the Harvard Business Review posted a story a couple weeks ago on perfectionism and how it affects your mental health. And talk about the comparisons to peers on social media, comparing yourself on that highlight reel, how that can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even suicidal ideation.
So now you're gonna bring the tears out of me. Okay, so high standards, you know, unattainable expectations. seeing things that our parents were able to do, and we get, improved opportunities. And so the expectations that we take that, build upon that, and even go to greater heights, right? Share a little bit of my personal story, and then we can go on to the show. So I finished graduate school in 2009. I got my master's, came back to Atlanta, and was a young, educated black man. I felt like I was going to come back here and take over the world. Just bought my home, bought a new car, and so I was ready to kind of, grab the reins and take off. And so when I started working in the field, doing my clinical training in 2009, I had to do 5 years of clinical training. The first 2 years, I made so little money in my training that I didn't even have to file taxes. So I say that jokingly now, of course, but back then, as a young man, you have these ideas of what you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be able to provide for yourself and others, and, for 2 years, I barely had enough money to be able to put gas in my car, to go and see clients. And so I was continuously borrowing money from family, borrowing, kind of getting some help from friends or what have you. And I noticed myself kind of detaching from the things I would normally do in life. Socially, I wasn't going out as much, really wasn't connecting with friends like that. I was kind of just, going and seeing clients and then coming on back home. And so it was a friend that actually told me, said, hey, you really haven't been kicking it, what's kind of going on. And so to me, I was just really kind of dedicating myself to work and really kind of just pushing, but I didn't realize I was myself falling into my own state of depression. So here I am, a therapist or a budding therapist, right? And I'm even going through my own mental health issue during the time, an emotional health, but I didn't even know it. And so, but those standards that we have, we have this ideology of what we're supposed to be, and, society puts these expectations on us, and our family and our friends really kind of look at us and say, hey, you're supposed to have all these things going on. How is it that you're falling into a deep, dark place? Even with Keri, how she was sharing her story, she's touring around the world, making great money, has songs on the charts, on the radio, very famous, beautiful woman, or what have you, but internally, she was fighting a fight that no one can actually see. And so what happens is that when we kind of find ourselves in these places, we really have to understand that no one makes it through life without getting help. Okay, if you want to go and buy a house tomorrow morning, you will have to go and get help from a bank, maybe getting a cosigner, et cetera. Same thing with the car or what have you. So we have to understand that there's no reason for us to take our personal health and our mental health any differently. It is quite all right, to go and get help from other individuals. It is okay to go and speak to a friend, a family member, and we actually engage in therapy a lot more than we actually know. Those of you that, kind of call your parent and say, hey, listen, I just want you to listen, and I just need to vent for a few minutes. That's therapy. When the guys are kind of getting together and we're having a few drinks and, we're talking about relationships and things like that, or things that are going on at home, that's therapy.
And in the barbershop.
In the barbershop, exactly. When the ladies get together and have, wine and watch their shows, or even in the hair salon or what have you, that's therapy. And so the whole concept of us silencing the shame and completely eliminating the stigma within the millennial generation, as James said, we're the ones that, we're putting our personal business out there and we're sharing our stories and really kind of getting ingratiated into new areas that we really haven't tapped into in life. I think that by doing this and increasing awareness, we really can create an environment so where our children's children won't have to be sitting here having these conversations, because there will no longer be stigma and shame around mental health and mental illness.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So we have about 10 minutes left, and then we're going to go into the screening. I'll just ask if you guys could provide 1 minute answers, if that's possible. But we want to take a couple of questions from our viewers on social media and online. This question is for Necole from Jamila Barnes. Hi, Jamila. I love her. What sources of strength do you lean on today when you have rough days?
I don't know. I mean, a lot of people who follow me know that I'm into fitness. Like, I do bodybuilding, bikini fitness competitions. And I think just being, I know that might not be a source of strength to some people, but just being in the gym and working on myself has helped me a lot. A lot of things got me through things like aromatherapy, just things simple as that, crystals, and finding even changing my career path, and now I have this positive website. We're posting positive stories every day, so I'm being fed with positivity every single day, And even Keri probably we posted something on her recently on our Instagram. All the comments that normally positive, it's a whole different energy in my life now that I've took the risk and left something successful, but that was toxic to my spirit, and launched something more fulfilling and positive.
Thank you. Keri, when it comes to mental health, we sometimes try to conceal our emotions. What could we do to kind of unlearn those habits, just from the experience you've been through? What advice would you give to others?
That's tough because it's so
Personal.
easy to do.
Yeah.
I mean, and in business, or if you have any kind of platform, whether it be inside your home, you're a mother, you're an aunt, if you have any kind of platform, it's hard to be that vulnerable. It's hard to show people, and other times you feel selfish for talking about what your needs are. You know what I mean? Like for me, in my career, there are people in my camp who largely depend on my work financially. You know what I'm saying? When I didn't work for 7 years, I felt guilty. When I was just taking that year off even, I felt guilty. I was just like, what are they gonna do? What's he gonna do? What's she gonna do? They had to figure it out. I couldn't help them anymore. I wasn't a source of income that they had depended on for years. So it's tough. I actually think in some scenarios, it's okay to not be 100% honest. I will say what helped me is when people do ask, you don't have to go deeply, but when people, how are you? The simple question, answer it honestly. I don't just say
Yes.
I don't just.
Big.
That's big. I don't just say all the cliche, oh, I'm fine, thanks, or good, thanks, how are you? I say, I've been better, but how are you? And, or whatever the truth is for that moment, I check in with I use that as a literal moment to check in with myself. When someone
like
says,
that. Yeah.
I pause. And they probably think I'm a weirdo because it's just a simple, everyday, rapid fire type of question. How are you doing? Or, hey, what's up? Even what's up? I'm like, I'm not good.
Can't call it. That's right.
Can't call it. I like that. Can't call it. Shit. Can't call it. But yeah, I think it's okay to work on yourself and not let every single person know, because there are going to be some people. When I did open up to someone, he actually told me, he said, damn, it's amazing. And this was his way of I don't know, it made me feel worse. But he said, damn, all it took for you, was a breakup. There are so many.
Wow, you're kidding.
Yeah, and he was like, there are so many. He was like, it's amazing. He posed it this way. He said, it's amazing how some people have real stuff going on. And
What?
And all it took to break you down was an 11-year breakup. And I wanted to fight him. And, and I was just like, yeah, but we all have different triggers. We all have different stuff. We all have different traumas. We all have different experiences. And so, yeah, for me, that's what it took. I can probably handle something that you deem worse.
Yeah, that's right.
But that is my emotional trigger. That is something that is very deep and embedded into the story of my life. You may not be able to relate, but I guarantee you'll find yours.
Snap, snap, snap. In Wakanda, we talk about our mental health, so I just need y'all to know that and say that after all those Black Panther posts, y'all keep in Wakanda, #Sounds of Shame, we talk about our mental health, okay? This question is from Sean Wilburn on Facebook, and this is for our therapists or licensed healthcare professionals. How can we be more inclusive for LGBTQ in mental health awareness?
Sure. So in terms of how do we be more inclusive of, so we say LGBT as if that's some unique, special group of people that have to be treated in a different way, right? People are people, all right? People are people. With us as mental health professionals, we don't treat a specific orientation, or we don't necessarily, kind of say, okay, well, let's kind of figure this stuff out based from an LGBT perspective, right? There are a lot of different issues that people experience from childhood, going all the way up through adulthood. We do know that certain populations do have certain things that they deal with more regularly than other groups of people. But I know me as a professional, I don't treat a specific group any differently. So in terms of inclusion, the same way that someone that may have, think that they may have bipolar disorder or generalized anxiety disorder. I will bring them in. I will bring the person from the LGBT community in the same way. So there's no sense of rejecting someone based on sexual orientation or background.
This question is for Dr. Ayanna. Oh, you want to add to that? Sure.
I would also say with that there's a foundation in respect for people, right? Respect, not control of people, right? And oftentimes we want to be able to determine.
That's big. That's big.
Oh, yes, right? And we often want to determine what other people do because there's something within us that's uncomfortable. So we project those things onto other people. And that's often what comes up versus allowing people to be who they are, right? And again, that's that foundation in respect. And then you'll see how much that can kind of open you up to whoever you're around, but that also can limit the assumptions that we make about other people, right? That then become fear and hatred and those things that kind of take all these other contexts afterwards. But oftentimes it starts with stop trying to control what other people are doing, right? And redirect it back to yourself, right? You worry about yourself over there, right? So yeah.
Our last question that we're going to take from social media is, how do you deal with the negativity that comes from social media? Ooh. Anybody take that question?
Get off of it.
It's funny because
Option?
the thing is, I don't experience negativity on social media, but I think it's anymore. I used to log in. I used to hate logging into Twitter because all those commentary would be commentary on celebrities that was so negative. It would just be deep in my spirit. But I log in and everybody, I thought the internet got nicer, but it was just I changed my brand and I ran off all the negative people. So yeah, I'm lucky that I don't experience negativity and things that trigger me, like anything Donald Trump tweets triggers me.
45.
So I just blocked him on Twitter, so I can't, and people can't even tweet him onto my timeline because he's blocked. So I don't even see his tweets ever.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a protection mode that we have to go into when we are not okay, when we're just a little low or a lot low. There is a protection mode that must happen because you would be surprised at how much our subconscious is soaking in the criticism and the praise. Neither of it is great for us.
That's right.
It's all based on people that do not know the true us. And so I remember, part of my protection was going away. If you notice, I just started posting recently since 2015. So 2 and some change years, I just went ghost. I said, you know what? I don't need the false love or the, meanness.
Unwarranted,
Unwarranted hate. I don't want any of it. And so I just freaking left. I lurked a little bit, but but that was when I took like a 90-day, and then the 90 days became, oh, wow, I don't even want to go back. It's been a year. So after maybe a year or so, like I got back, I put the app back on my phone, and then another year went by. I was like, you know what? I don't even want to post. I still don't want to. So that helped now that I'm back on social media. That subconscious chatter that we're taking in to our spirits has now, it doesn't resound, it doesn't swirl around, it doesn't affect me, it doesn't reach that part of me that it once did. So I would suggest doing that. When you're not okay, erase that app off your phone. Take it away.
Thank you.
Social media is a huge contributor to anxiety and depression. A huge contributor, right? So when we're talking about and thinking about millennial populations, and how many literally hours you spend on social media. That is the way in which you communicate. I have people who know I don't know if I'm in a relationship or not. It's on social media, and I don't know how to talk to this person because I'm used to texting. It's a main contributor in terms of that comparison factor, that perfectionism. We see things and we're comparing things to the highlight reel. You're comparing your entire history and everything you know about what you're experienced to somebody's vacation, right? It's not realistic, right? But the ways in which we kind of attribute things directly contribute to anxiety and depression, right? So I often recommend that we set boundaries around it, whether it's taking 90 days, 30 days, whatever it is, and to do something else with your time, do something more active with your time. And oftentimes people don't miss it. People think that FOMO, fear of missing out, right? People oftentimes don't miss it in the ways in which they think they will. But I'll challenge you all, right? See if you can take a day off of social media and see how you feel. See if you can take 2 days. See if you can extend that and see what else you're able to do with your life in that time,
Yes.
more than likely you'll notice some changes in how you feel about yourself.
Especially if you notice. See, I think of depression kind of as a saboteur. It's like a sabotaging spirit. Self-sabotage, you know what I mean? That's the way I have experienced it, I should say. That's the way I have experienced it. And so, checking up on exes, seeing what they're doing, especially it's so dangerous. It's masochistic behavior. It's sabotaging your own wellness. And so I had to stop that. I had to stop that. Early on, that 11-year relationship, I sure was. I was trying to figure out passwords. I was, you know what I'm saying? I was successful though. I don't know how I did it, but I learned a lot. Won't he do it? But anyway, it was pointless because this was after a breakup. But this is just a masochistic behavior. If you have that behavior, if you find yourself like almost going in the direction of hurt, it's obsessive. It sure is. And we have to, if social media is that for you, if there's a page you go on and you feel worse, and sometimes you're going to, you envy someone, you envy their relationship, there's something that that they're doing that they did not include you in, or whatever the case is, she's prettier than me, or oh my God, she's perfect. Stop that. Stop that. Block them so you can't see it.
That's right.
Do whatever you need to do.
And for me, I'm an entrepreneur, so I can't take too long of a hiatus off social media because I need y'all for the success of our movement. But and I'm certainly no celebrity, and I have nowhere near the followers that you guys have. I have a decent amount, but I've started noticing negative comments, and I just immediately delete them. I'm not allowing that spirit into my spirit. My page is my page. And I love y'all, but you don't really have to follow my page. It is all good. I will find some other good people out there to support me, but I don't even allow it in. And like you said, I immediately block people. I just, hurt people, And two of my good friends told me that today, and you just can't allow that negativity into your space. All right, y'all got to give it up for that. That was so good. So we're going to do about a 15-minute audience Q&A because you guys have been here for a long time. So thank you guys for staying. And so I'm going to have one of my Silence to Shame members take this mic out to the audience. And please ask a question. If you have a comment, please keep it short. But ask a question, then we'll try to limit our answers to a minute. Okay, thanks.
Hi. Oh, okay. I'm I love the show Giants, and I actually watched episode for season 2, I think 3 times this morning. It was dope. But my question for you, James, is I know that, well, one, you and Issa Rae are like 2 people that I'm just admiring for the past year. I know you mentioned that the character of Ade, his situation with his father, was a little bit based on you. So I was wondering, do we see more of that story told in season 2, or is that for season 3?
Yeah, we go deep. Yeah, so we see Ade go home, and as you saw in the trailer, he confronts his father. But yeah, so it continues.
All right. Love the work, man. Thank you.
So James, congratulations on all the work you've done so far. My question for you is, when you were doing season 1 and season 2, were you afraid that people weren't going to like the message, or what were you most afraid of, that people wouldn't understand the message, or what was it?
Yeah, I really was not thinking about people. I set out, yeah. I think the job of an artist is to reflect the times. And I felt, with Giants, I just wanted to be honest. And this show was more cathartic, and it was more about me telling my truth and creating something. I had spent a number of years working on other people's projects. I was working on First, was working on a few short films, but I was directing and acting and producing, but I had not birthed anything. I had not put anything into the earth that was from my heart and, and my soul. And so when I was working on Giants, that was my focus. And, of course, when you put things out, you hope people will like it. But I created the show from an honest place. I put it into the world, and I let it go. And I'm grateful, that people have enjoyed the show.
Good evening. My name is Georgia Dawkins, and I am a television producer and a proud rattler, James Bland. Hey, come on, fam. So my question being that I've worked in TV for more than 10 years, what is the role of media when it comes to the state of mental health in this country?
You know, I may pass this on to either Necole or Keri as well. How about you guys pick that up? You want to?
Wait,
I mean, you run a media platform.
Well, again, going back to me running a platform, NecoleBitchie.com, that was more celebrity news and gossip. I think that weighed on my spirit for most of the bulk of the time I had the platform, because I'm a media platform. These, hundreds of thousands of women are logging into this site a day, multiple times a day. What am I feeding them? And even now, I've referred to that site as the junk food, and the site I have now is the vitamin. Yeah, so, but most media companies are so busy chasing page views and trying to get the story out first. They don't care about how it's affecting their audience mentally, what they're, checking the facts, how the stats, and a lot of sites race bait. You'll see black and white in the headlines some type of way. They just don't know how that subconsciously affects their audience, and I'm very aware of that, and that's why I changed my brand.
I just want to piggyback off of that from the celebrity standpoint. You don't know, these blogs and those that are doing these write-ups that are so irresponsible, they can be so damaging. You don't know where a person is. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about what you're feeding the audience, it's also what you're doing to the creator, the creatives, the entertainers, the athletes, everyone, the politicians even, not Trump, you do whatever to him. But, because he dishes it. But, there are a lot of undeserving people being attacked by just a headline. You don't understand, some of the worst days of my life were just from a lie, an attack on my character, and I happen to be an amazing person. I do say that because I've done the work to become that, and all I've ever wanted to be was just a great human being. But then I can't, thank you, and I'm grateful to finally have become who I dreamt of being. But anyway, from a celebrity standpoint, it's really, there's a lot of unfairness. There's a lot of, no one fact checks, no one cares how that affects your day, your family, your relationship, your career, your endorsements, your whatever, the list goes, your children, the list goes on and on and on and on. And so I think that I was so happy. I've just been a fan of Necole Bitchie. We hadn't even met each other, but I was DMing her years ago when it was still Necole Bitchie. Sorry, Necole Kane. But when it was still Necole Bitchie, I was DMing her, even though it was still Necole Bitchie, and you think of that as junk food, fast food, there was an ism of responsibility that I could sense in her writings and in her write-ups. Her blog was just not like the others. And I appreciated that, and that's the way I literally DM'd her on Twitter and told her that, there's something different about you. And then when she finally made the transition, I DM'd her again. And, I'm so proud that someone views themselves as a platform of responsibility. Because speaking of mental health, you don't know how that stuff affects us. You don't know how that affects us. You don't know what fragile state we may or may not be in. So.
You know what changed me? I went to a therapist. I think it was the year that Freddie Gray, all that, black men were being killed. We were doing suicide and murders on the blog. It was all types of stuff going on the blog. And I went to a therapist that year, and she told me I had secondhand, PTSD? And I'm thinking, well, if I got secondhand, I know my audience is getting secondhand too. And I think that's what really just made me say, okay, I gotta switch my brand.
I'm glad you mentioned that, particularly as it relates, real quick, particularly as it relates to social media, what's happening, and the images and the videos that we're scrolling through over and over and over again. People don't recognize that that's traumatic, right? And that you're seeing people who look like you get murdered, and you're seeing lack of justice happen with that. You're seeing happen over and over and over again. That stuff is not supposed to be in our psyche in that way, right? So it contributes, so again, to a lot of depression and anxiety. And there's this kind of, I talked to my friend a lot about it, there's this kind of porn that's associated with how graphic this is, right? And they'll put the news headlines, and again, the just kind of debate to get you into the article. But we're not supposed to be seeing that and kind of holding that stuff in our bodies, right? We hold trauma in the body, it's very physical. And again, if you're spending hours on social media and you're seeing videos every single time because they just come up automatically, imagine what that's doing to you. And then you're trying to switch gears and be at work, or switch gears and go to class. Like, you're still holding all that information with you while you're trying to function in the world, right? And it's trauma. That's what it is.
I think they have to find the balance between reporting the news and, being socially responsible. These are adults behind these blogs. There has to be balance. There's got to be I hope that they all feel the way Necole felt.
And it's in music.
As an elder of our communities.
It's in our music too. Like, I know y'all
You
be
ain't
on the
lying.
treadmill listening to crunk music, but they be talking about something that's all in your head. I got to the point where now when I'm on a treadmill, I'm listening to Audible books because I'm like, I can't listen to y'all talking about like who you done, like you about to beat up and this and that. Like, I gotta get my mind right.
Yes. Afternoon. First off, I'm glad you guys kind of just brought up the news. As we see, like looking across the country, it would kind of appear like on the outside looking in, like we're having a mental breakdown, like as a country. Like just within the first 2 months of this calendar year, we've seen 18, 19 school shootings, right? We've just recently seen this past week multiple school shootings and multiple others that were stopped by law enforcement and other agencies. And I bring this up because as an educator in the school system, this recently just happened. And it didn't really hit me until I was in a classroom. And the students came in, and one lady came in, and she just started breaking down crying, like breaking down. And I'm trying to console her and just recognize, like, okay, well, what's going on? How are you feeling? And just trying to, understand. And she's like, yo, I'm terrified. Like, I'm just scared. I said, well, what are you scared of? She said, what if someone that comes into schools and shoots it up, Mr. Brown? And then it hit me like, damn. I don't know what to do if someone comes into school and shoots it up. Like, I don't even know how I'm supposed to really, I know what the protocol calls for, right? But when you hear a gunshot, that changes everything, And just trying to understand, how do we recognize, what to the therapist on the stage and anyone else, what recommendations would you put forth to recognize signs of mental health and mental illness and with different people who may be triggered to do a school shooting, or to hurt themselves or harm themselves in such a type of way? Because I'm from Tallahassee, Florida, and just recently, they stopped 3 today. Wow. One at Godby High School, one at Leon, and one at the alternative school. And I'm like, damn, that's my hometown. And, you see 45 on the news. I don't want to say his name. But, you see him on the news, and, you're like, you rolled back the Obama protections from allowing mental health people to get guns. Like the sisters just spoke about, you're removing their access to health care. And it's like, what would you guys say to just try to recognize those signs that might trigger someone to do something like that? And how can we help our fellow brothers and sisters out?
All right, so great question. Number one, we appreciate you being in the school system. We really appreciate that. I actually answered a question like this similar last week on a panel at MLK High School out in Lithonia. There was, I want to say there was one of their students that actually committed suicide or attempted suicide at the end of 2017. And so with the school shooting that happened maybe about 3 or 4 days before that, if you all know, at MLK, they had an incident where a student came on campus with a gun. And then an hour later, there were 4 students that were arrested for stealing the car. So like all this chaos was kind of happening on their campus. And so we had this panel discussion and really kind of talk about, how can we identify some of these things? So number one, the people that are around you will notice behavioral changes first, all right? They're the ones that spend a lot of time with you. They know your behavioral patterns, some of the things you're consistent with, you speak about. So they're gonna be the first ones to actually notice some changes in you before you may actually notice them yourself, all right? We all know that there's just certain warning signs of behavior that's completely out of the normal realm of how we react or respond, okay? I actually have this book, it might be out there. Yeah, so there's even when we're talking about suicide or homicide, it kind of talks about 3 different things. It says question, persuade, and then refer. All right. So when we notice there's some different, some exceptional behaviors in a person, or just a complete difference in their behavioral patterns, then we want to start questioning, making sure that everything is okay. We maybe want to kind of question what's going on, if anything's going on at home, if they want to kind of talk about some things. All right. Probing, it's okay to probe. What we tend to do is kind of have a hands-off approach, because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or we don't want to feel like we're intruding. What happens is when we don't intrude and when we don't probe, we allow that person to still kind of dwell within that space, and then anything that's really kind of being exacerbated on the inside will reach a boiling point, and then that's when they have that explosive behavior, all right? So you definitely want to question, you want to persuade, all right? So there was a student said, well, how do you convince someone to go get help? The best thing that you can be as a friend or as a colleague or even as a teacher is actually developing that resource bank yourself. So if you know that you have someone that you're closely associated with that needs to get some help, it's okay for you to actually go and coalesce a couple of resources, so that when that person is ready to reach out, or when they are ready to be receptive of some help, you're already right there in place and being that support system, all right? And then referring. I think that, so everyone that's in this room right now, we're talking about mental health, behavioral health, emotional wellness. So everyone should really, start Googling and researching, the processes of how do you get in contact with a therapist, or how do you refer someone, because we all know someone that is going through different issues, all right? If I were to say, raise your hand if you ever dealt with a bout of depression, I'm pretty sure that almost everyone's hands in this room will go up, right? So how can we all be experiencing some of these things, but we have no clue on how we can actually go and get resources? So questioning, persuading, referring, we can do a lot of things on our end to be preventative, as Dr. Abrams said earlier, so that we're not just responding when we have a major crisis happening.
Okay, we have time for maybe one more question after this. Go ahead, quickly.
Oh, sorry. I wanted to add to that in terms of maybe some specific behaviors to look at. As I was mentioning before, you're looking for social isolation. You're looking for anger. I think in reference to the unfortunate school shooting last week, they were noticing things on his social media, right? They were noticing things that he was saying. There were some people who kind of stepped in, but everybody kind of took a hands off, right? So as educators, when you're noticing, when you know a student in a certain way and they start behaving in a different way, as you said, you want to kind of highlight those things. Again, the friends who notice things. Again, social media, social isolation, angry behavior, anger outbursts, how they're talking about things. If you just notice like a shift in what they're talking about or how they're talking about things. If you're noticing that they become preoccupied with certain things, right? They're not talking about a wide range of things anymore, but they're kind of fixated on some things. That's also a sign, right, to look for. Something is changing behaviorally with this person. That might be a time to just start asking questions, right, in a gentle manner, or kind of becoming more probing with them.
Okay, final question.
Hi, my name is Erica James Strayhorn. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Atlanta. And I don't have a question, but I kind of wanted to highlight something that was mentioned by Keri and by you too, Dr. Abrams, about the relationship you have with your therapist. It's very vital to spend time to build and cultivate that relationship. You might need to have a therapist date, a few therapist dates, until you can find the therapist that works best for you. Because part of the therapeutic process is digging deep into the relationship that you have with yourself. You want to make sure that the therapist and that the space they create is that which you can feel extremely vulnerable and feel extremely transparent, especially for those of us in here who are people of color. There are not many places outside of our homes or outside of ourselves we can actually feel vulnerable. I've actually had a couple of clients of mine tell me that our sessions together, our therapy sessions together, is a place where he can feel most vulnerable because he does not feel that anywhere else. So really, if you're really looking into finding a therapist, understand that it takes time, and you might need to go to see that therapist 2 or 3 times before you can really understand the relationship that's being developed there. So that's what I wanted to add. Thank you all.
Thank you. Please follow our movement. On Instagram, we are at Silence the Shame. On Twitter and Facebook, we are at Silence TH Shame. We post a lot of helpful articles. Shout out to Jasmine and Cameron, who post some great stuff every day on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. We also have a really cool podcast. Shout out to Free the Vision, who is my co-host. We have 12 episodes up. You can find our podcast. Please subscribe, y'all. It's under Silence the Shame. We are on Google Play, on SoundCloud, and on iTunes. And also, we pass out some pamphlets, so we listed some resources. The Suicide Prevention Line, NAMI, which is the National Alliance on Mental Illness. We do a lot of great work there. Silence the Shame right now is on a national tour, thanks to Hillary Dunson, with Jack and Jill of America. We're talking to the teens all across the country, y'all, about good mental health. So we're out here in these streets, we're doing the work, And for our young folks, we have Silence the Shame campus reps. I figure, I'm going to just market Silence the Shame like I did Outkast back in the day. We're going to take it to the streets, pass out, distribute cards, and really heal our people. And so we also gave you these little business cards for the crisis text line org. And so if anybody's in crisis, because I know sometimes it's hard to even just take that first step of calling somebody. So there's an organization called Crisis Text Line, and we have a key word. So if you text the word silence to 741-741, you will be immediately connected to a counselor, and then they will put you further in touch with the licensed healthcare professional in your area. So please spread that information. And it's 24 hours. Yeah, you can talk to anyone on a regular basis. So thank you, guys. We love you. We're so excited about seeing this, James. We're going to have you intro it. But I beg you guys, don't be judgmental. Sometimes people just need an ear. You got to allow people to talk to you. Sometimes they just need somebody to listen. This weekend, I was calling on my friends because my girl Portia threw a surprise party for me, but I was like, why aren't my friends, calling me back? And I was feeling down and blue, but you never know when it's, something serious. So take that phone call. I know we adults, grown folks got a lot of stuff going on, but you never know how that one phone call or that one ear will save a life. So please continue to silence the shame.
I want to add in too, because I think I don't hear this talked about enough when it comes to depression, physical touch. Physical touch, I think when I go too long without being hugged or even someone just touching me like that, I can start feeling isolated and depressed. And I think just a hug sometimes, sometimes we live in households with families or friends, your boyfriend, and we're not even touching each other.
That's right.
So
because we don't have those, personal skills anymore because we're so used to just, texting them away. Don't text me to go out on a date. Call me, come over, hug me, have some fun. Let's cook, let's eat. I feel you.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, give it up for your panelists, guys.